What a fight back from England. They've batted for 2 sessions. They might not have quite got themselves to parity, Mike Hussey. This is Cricbuzz Chatter with Adam Collins and former Australian great Mike Hussey. But they have put themselves in a position where we've got a very interesting day 4 and potentially even day 5 on our hands. Joe Root, exceptional. David Malan riding shotgun. They put on an unbeaten 159 after Australia racked up a first innings lead of 278, which, I suppose my instinct was, Huss, is that Australia have just about battered them out of the game, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Oh, it was another superb day of Test cricket. Really good, hard, tough, uncompromising Test cricket again. Australia, well, they looked to really grind England into the dirt by going out there and batting again and building up a huge lead in the first innings. But England, well, they've shown why they're one of the best teams in the world, and they show great fight, great character. And Joe Root just continued on his merry way of he's having a magnificent calendar year in Test match cricket, still there at the crease. And England, I think, what is it, about 68 runs behind. They've got themselves back into their match. Still a long way to go. 2 days to go in this Test match is still a long, long time. And England still need to bat very well to build a big lead, but they've certainly given themselves a chance. And after they lost a couple of early sort of wickets, you thought, oh, hang on, could Australia just run away with this Test match? But no, great fight, great partnership from David Malan and Joe Root. It was just magnificent to watch. Great Test cricket, and they'll have to rest up tonight because I'm sure they're pretty weary, both of them. I think they were both struggling from a few knocks and cramp, but they have to come out and do it all again tomorrow and try and wear Australia down this time.
Yeah, and I suppose for Australia, 70 overs in the field. I must admit, when I saw there were 75 overs remaining on day 3, I thought, well, this might be over. They might get a weekend off, the Aussie bowlers, which would be a significant thing with back-to-back Test matches. But Joe Root was never going to allow that. In on a pair, in early again after Burns was out nicking the first over after lunch. Asiba Mead caught down the leg side. And when he joined David Malan, he just picked up from where he left off against India, really. He rattled off 300s in 3 tests there. What an astonishing 12 months Joe Root is having, in excess of 1,500 runs. That partnership, as you can see there, is 159 unbeaten. But overall, thinking about the way Joe Root has been piling up century after century, of 6 of them this year, he's been peerless. There's a reason why he's ranked number 1 in the world. He's going from strength to strength.
Yeah, he's been incredible all year, really. And I think he's a great player of spin, and he's a great player in English conditions where the pitches are slower and they can seam around, and he plays the ball so late and uses his hands in spinning conditions, can sweep the ball and play the spinners magnificently. But the one place he hasn't been able to dominate is in Australian conditions. And so I know it's a huge series, an Ashes series, so you want to do the best you possibly can on that front. But he'll also want to prove to himself and the world that he can have success in Australian conditions as well. The last couple of times he's been to Australia, hasn't been able to score the runs he would have liked. He's not scored a century on Australian soil. So he's got a wonderful opportunity. And I think the difference has been that in the past, he's been criticised for getting really good starts, scoring a lot of 50s, but not converting those into hundreds like what we see with Virat Kohli or a Kane Williamson or even a Stephen Smith for that matter. But in the last 12 months, Joe Root, he's certainly converted. And when he's converted, he's gone big as well, scoring 6 Test centuries in the calendar year. He's eyeing off a 7th, and he's still got a couple more Test matches to go before the end of the calendar year. So who knows? He could score even more. But wonderful performance. What I really liked was after being dismissed for a duck in the first innings, sometimes you can come out and just be a little bit tentative and unsure of yourself in the second innings. But there was no sign of that whatsoever from Joe Root. He came out in a confident frame of mind. He looked positive. He looked confident and decisive, and it was a wonderful innings.
Yeah, not least with his footwork to Nathan Lyon, who seems stuck on 399 Test wickets. He's been on 399 Test wickets before the WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic. He went into the 390s before then, which shows how long Lyon has been battling to get those 10 wickets to go from 390 to 400. But I'm sure he'll do that tomorrow. He's such a fine cricketer. Let's just talk about David Malan for a moment, shall we? He got into this England Test team on the back of effectively 1 innings, 199 against Sussex for Yorkshire earlier this year. They are crying out for a number 3. He's only played 7 first-class games in the last 2 years. But what he does do is travel the world. An experienced international, plays a lot of white ball cricket. He's a man who's very comfortable with his game at age 33. They've given him this opportunity to play in Australia again, where he made a century at the Wacker, of course, 4 years ago. He has the temperament, to play off the back foot, to play from the crease. And we saw today why they picked him on this tour and why they backed him to be the England number 3 again.
Yeah, he looks very well organised at the crease and looks like he has a very good understanding of his own game. And I think that's important. You're right. He's got experience of playing in Australian conditions, which was one of the big worries for England coming over here to Australia, because they had a lot of inexperience in their top order of playing in Australian conditions. It is different. It is unique, a unique place to play around the world. And he has had success here. And so that counts for something, it gives you confidence. But he's also an unflappable character. You're going to be put under enormous pressure when you're facing an attack that has Hazlewood, Cummins, Stark in there. And he just doesn't seem to get bothered by anything. Doesn't seem to get flustered or stressed. He's just calm at the crease. And I think that calming influence is really important. And I think he played a magnificent role with Joe Root to build that partnership. Yes, he had a little bit of luck along the way, but you need to have a bit of luck in Test cricket. I thought he played magnificently. He looked pretty stiff and sore by the end of the day's play, so he's going to have to recover overnight. And he's got plenty more work to do for England.
All right, Huss, drum roll. Let's go into the hotspot. Huss, we talked the other day and we kind of jokingly said that it's going to never be easier than that for Pat Cummins leading the Australian team all out 147. There were going to be tougher days than that. And look, that's what they're having right now. England at the close of play have reached the stage in the game when there will be people watching the next move from Cummins. The fact that Hazlewood didn't bowl many overs, we'll come to that in a moment. Labuschagne had to bowl, Cameron Green had to bowl a number of overs across a couple of spells. Cummins bowled splendidly himself. That ball to Rory Burns was an absolute perler. But days like today and tomorrow are where you really earn your money as a captain as well.
Yeah, without doubt. You're right. He's had a dream start to his captaincy career, picking up 5 wickets on the first day. The toss, probably losing the toss went his way as well in a lot of respects, and Australia getting themselves into a very strong position. But this is why it's called Test cricket. It tests you on so many different levels, and you can't just do it for one day or maybe 1.5 days. It needs to be done over a 5-day period. And that's why we love it so much, because it tests you physically, mentally, tactically, technically on so many different fronts. And, it won't bother Pat Cummins. He's a very level-headed guy. When things are going really well, he doesn't get too carried away. If things didn't quite go to plan, as they did today, I don't think he'll get too low and start to panic either. I think he'll be calm, and they'll reassess overnight. I think the stumps came at a good time for Australia. They needed to get off and refresh and come back fresh tomorrow and have another good go to at England. So I'm not going to start judging Pat Cummins' captaincy over one day's cricket. There's going to be hard days, and I have no doubt that he's fully aware of that. He's got good people around him, some good experience and leaders around him to help him through as well. I personally thought he actually rotated the bowlers pretty well. He gave everyone a chance. He changed the ends. He tried everything pretty much to try and pick up a wicket. Yeah, the only one which we haven't really got any confirmation, is Josh Hazlewood, one of Australia's best bowlers, only bowling 8 overs. Now, we're not sure if there's been a niggle there or not, but he stayed on the field all afternoon. He warmed up a few times as though he was going to bowl, but didn't quite get on. So I don't know. We'll have to probably find out a little bit more about that. But it was surprising, if he's fully fit, that Pat Cummins didn't bowl Josh Hazlewood a few overs in the afternoon session.
Yeah, interesting, wasn't it? I think he came off the ground late in the day as well. So the plot thickens around Hazlewood. No formal word as to whether it was a niggle or otherwise. Mitchell Stark, Huss, I haven't seen your broadcast coverage today, but I assume he would have been under a fair bit of pressure from some of your colleagues when he bowled that spell after, it would have been after tea, wasn't it? When he was a bit wayward after starting really, really well. That first over to Rory Burns was an absolute perler. And he got that wicket, of course. So Super Mead down the leg side, loved it, as you can do sometimes as a batsman. But for Stark, it'll be another day when he's being watched closely. That's inevitable with 8 wickets still to take.
Yeah, I guess that's just Mitchell Stark and his whole career, really. We know what we're going to get. You're going to get some high-class, high-quality bowling, but you're going to get some wayward stuff as well. The left arm option creates that angle, creates that variety. I don't think we should be judging him too harshly. We know what we're going to get. He's going to bowl some wonderful spells. He's going to come on and pick up 2 or 3 wickets in a spell. He's very difficult for the tail to face as well. But then there are going to be times when he doesn't quite get it right. That's just the way he is. You know what he's like coming into a test match and a test series, and you've come to accept that. So, yeah, there's always scrutiny and there's always pressure, but it's not just on Mitchell Starc, it's on all the guys. You're being watched every single game, every single day that you play. And this is something that the modern day player has to deal with. There's so much scrutiny these days, but it won't bother Mitchell Starc. He knows his role in the team. I think that's something that the Australian team has spoken about a lot, is that every person, whether it's a staff or a player, has complete clarity on what their role is in the team. And I'm sure Mitchell Starc's role is to come on, be that aggressor, try and break a partnership open, and to understand that there might be times when he goes for a few runs.
Yeah, I think that's really, really well summed up. You got to, what you get with Mitchell Starc. He's a genius when he gets it right, and when he doesn't, that's fine as well. It's the complete package that you need to look at in totality. Just a quick word before we move towards the end of the show about that ball that Pat Cummins bowled to Rory Burns, who, of course, was out in the first over, but overturned leg before. He didn't face the first ball. He's only not faced the first ball as an opener 4 times in 241 innings in first-class cricket, which I think is quite an interesting point there. But when Cummins eventually did get him, it was a brute. It took off. And, I mean, I understand why Burns tried to ride the bounce, but another low score for him. He's going to have to find a way to get himself into the series at Adelaide, which it won't get any easier, especially if it's a pink ball under lights there.
Yeah. You've got to feel for Rory Burns. Obviously there would have been a lot of nerves and apprehension coming into that second innings. After you get out first ball of the series and you put down a catch at second slip where you'd expect yourself to take that catch, there's going to be some nerves there. So I thought, yeah, he was lucky to survive early, got that reprieve with the LBW given out, and it was a good appeal and a good review from him to get that overturned. And to be honest, once he got his first run, I thought he was looking really good. He's starting to time the ball nicely. He looked good in defence. He was letting the ball go well. But you're right. That ball that Pat Cummins bowled was an absolute brute. And there's not much he could have done. So I hope he's not beating himself up too much about it, because it was almost an unplayable delivery. I had a good look at the pitch today. And from the first day, when there was lots of moisture in the pitch, it took out quite a few divots out of the pitch. And as those divots harden up, the ball can just seam off either side of the divot, but also if it hits the upslope of the divot as well, it can cause the ball to really take off. And my suspicion is that it hit the upslope of one of those divots and really took off. And you got to feel for Rory Burns, but that's the game sometimes. When it's going your way, you might get an edge and it'll fly over the top of the slips or the keeper. But when it's not going your way, that unfortunately is a fine nick and straight through to the keeper. But that's Test cricket sometimes as well. He's going to have to lick his wounds and come back stronger in Adelaide.
A truism, if ever I've heard one. Huss, let's press fast forward and bring the show to a close. Really fascinating situation tomorrow. 59 runs still for England to knock off before they're in the lead. And if they can get a lead, I mean, let's put to one side the fact we speak with Australian accent, shall we? Harsha and I like to do this when we're doing this segment. Let's forget what country we're from. For the love of Test cricket, imagine, just let us dream, England getting out to a lead of 150 or 160. I know I was especially critical of Joe Root at the toss on day one. I acknowledge that. But the benefit of batting first is bowling fourth. And look, their bowlers have done a day in the dirt. Jack Leach has been taken to the cleaners. But if they can find a way to some sort of lead of some vague credibility with a 1 in front of it, who knows? It might still yet be game on at Brisbane.
Without doubt. And, I know I speak with an Australian accent, but I want to see that. I want to see a classic contest at the Gabba, and I want it to go right down to the wire. That's what you want to see. Good hard Test cricket. You want to see how the players handle pressure, and you want to see them in tough situations. And even as a player, you want to be involved in games like that. So I know the Aussies will be hoping that they can rattle through England pretty cheaply tomorrow. But for me personally, I would love to see England, build a bit of a lead and we can have a really close, tight Test match at the Gabba. What a way to start the series. England have shown great fighting qualities to fight back at this stage. There's still lots of work to do, and they'll have to work extremely hard. But having said that, they've got some power hitting to come, really. If you think you've got Stokes, you've got Pope, you've got Butler still to come. Wokes is certainly no mug with the bat as well. If they can happen to get a bit of a lead with Malan and Root at the crease, then they might be able to really push the game forward later in the day, which would make it fascinating to watch. And the Aussies will still be, quietly confident that they can get the job done. This pitch is holding together extremely well. It was a very good batting conditions today, and I expect it to hold together well again tomorrow. So I still think it'll be good batting conditions tomorrow. We haven't seen any of the cracks that normally open up here at the Gabba as yet, and I think that's probably because of the amount of rain that fell in the lead up to this Test match. So still very, very good conditions. Not a lot of rough for the spinners to work into. So I think Australia will still be confident in trying to chase down whatever England can get to in front.
Yeah, I don't want to bring back nightmares, Huss, but 221 was your lead over England in 2010 at this venue, and they went on to make one for 517 and completely changed the complexion of that Test match and what turned out to be a successful series for the visitors. And let's not forget, it's only 10 months ago where India hung in there and hung in there and hung in there and hung in there, and they pulled off one of the all-time great Test victories. Let's leave it there. It's going to be a fascinating weekend at the Gabba. Make sure you follow all of it day to day on Cricbuzz through the course of the playing day. And it stumps Adam Collins and Mike Hussey always with you on Cricbuzz Chatter. Good night from us.